Good evening. Thank you and welcome to this special board meeting of August 20th, 2018. Tonight we're going to roll right into the agenda, and fellow board members, this is not a consent agenda, so I'm just going to hit each item one at a time. Before that, I'll go ahead and read each item. 2.1 Revised 2018-2019 School Calendar. 2.2 Resolution 07181937 Appointment of Special Counsel. 2.3 Authorization for Superintendent to add teaching positions. 2.4 Hourly rate for employees route bus driver substitute. 2.5 Budget revision to self-funded construction fund for Burke Elementary parent driveway extension. 2.6 RFQ for architectural services, Scott Middle School's new cafeteria. 2.7 Discuss funding availability for JROTC program facility improvements. 2.8 Reinstatement of transformation zone officer position to the 2018-19 budget. All right, so first item is 2.1 Revised 2018-2019 School Calendar. Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that the board approve the revised 2018-2019 district calendar to accommodate a special statewide election to be held on Tuesday, November 6, 2018.
We have a motion by Mr. Latchley, second by Mr. Angel, to revise the 2018-2019 school calendar. Do we have any public comment on this item? Any board member comment on this item? Madam Secretary, I call for the vote. Can you do we get everybody vote?
We can't take them in global.
Well, we guess we could have.
You can time me.
Ms. Dorothy, are we good?
7-4, none against.
Great, thank you. 2.2 Resolution 07181937 Appointment of Special Counsel. Sorry, what was the motion?
Read the thing to me. That the board approve resolution.
Motion to approve that the board approve resolution 07-18-1937 to appoint Pecoraro Law as counsel in litigation over the opioid epidemic.
Got a motion by Dr. Chasson, second by Mr. Centani, that the board approve resolution 07181937 to appoint Pecoraro Law as counsel in litigation over the opioid epidemic. Do we have any public comment on this item? Any board member comment? Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
7-4, none against.
Mr. Centani.
If I might, I move that we approve items 2.3, 2.4, 2.5, 2.6, and 2.8 as written.
We have a motion to approve 2.3, 2.4, 2.5, 2.6, and 2.8 as written. By Mr. Centani and a second by Mr. Angel. Do we have any public comment on this item? Any of those items? That was 2.3, 2.4, 2.5, 2.6, and 2.8. Any board member comment or questions on this item? Mr. Centani.
I would just like to comment and congratulate the superintendent and his staff on a fine job, all the hard work they did over the last week, balancing teaching positions and among student populations, both increases and decreases. I know they worked very hard, and I'm happy to vote to authorize the additional teaching positions to make sure that our class sizes get reduced.
Any other board member comment or questions?
Who's second?
Madam Secretary, I call for the vote.
We can go back and I'm not sure. We can, yeah, you can probably go back and say that, and we can on record. Mm-hmm. Seven, 4, none against.
Those motions pass, and that again was for 2.3, 2.4, 2.5, 2.6, and 2.8. I do want to announce that I mistakenly voted for 2.2. I have asked them to change my yes vote to an abstention on that item for 2.2, and just wanted to let everybody know that. Next item is 2.7.
I'd like to make a motion that the board approve a budget revision increase to the self-funded construction fund in the amount of $700,000 for JROTC facility improvements at Como and Acadiana High Schools, offset to come from the 1920 reserve for projects line items.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mr. Latchley, second by Ms. Morrison, to approve a budget revision, the increase of $700,000 to the self-funded construction fund for JROTC facility improvements at Como and Acadian High Schools to offset to come from the 1920 reserve for projects line item. Do you have any public comment on this item? Any board member comment? Mr. Angel? No, I don't think anybody has any comment.
Is this a new construction or a renovation, or what is it?
Mr. Bordelon can probably be more specific, but the facilities that they're in right now they've been in for about 20, I would say 25 years, temporary buildings, and they're asking for basically new temporary buildings, a pod type style temporary building setup that allows them, actually Mr. Bordelon can speak more eloquently on the item.
Mr. Angel, we were kind of given a quick notice on this, so right now the intent is to use 2 portable buildings. I've spoken to the ROTC instructors. They're trying to operate basically out of 1 portable building right now, and if they had the space of 2 portable buildings, the interior spaces could be renovated to provide them with a classroom and some other storage rooms, and kind of like a locker room sort of space for the boys to change in one area, the girls to change in another separately, be able to keep their stuff, their uniforms, and give them the setup that they need. So it would take about the space of 2 portable buildings is my understanding at this point.
Is it new construction, or are we buying 2 temporary buildings?
Right now, it's based on using temporary buildings that we have now and renovating those.
So it would cost $700,000 to renovate 2 temporary buildings?
That would be for 2 different sites. We're talking about 3,000 square feet, a little over 3,000 square feet is the space of 2 portable buildings. I've met with one of the architects, one of the local architects, and he suggested that I budget somewhere between $100 and $125 per square foot for renovations. So that's the numbers that I used.
Well, these numbers, you're going to tweak them as we move forward. In the
Absolutely,
process.
yes, sir.
I'm just curious, could we maybe build something more permanent with that kind of money, or no?
No, sir, not for 100 to 125 a square foot. No,
Really?
sir.
Yeah. I guess I live in another time when you could build a house for about $35. All right, thank you. A square foot, yeah.
Mr. Satani.
I spent the day demolishing my garage at my house. I can promise you I'm not replacing it for 125 a square foot. Mr. Lecce might be able to answer this. How many portable buildings are on the campuses of Acadiana and Como right now? And will this be a net increase, or it sounds like a net increase in temporary buildings on these campuses?
I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, sir, but it potentially could be a net increase of 1 per campus, potentially.
Okay.
I have a question. During this process of, I understand we're going to go through kind of an initial evaluation process. Can we get a comparison of costs between renovating these temporary facilities and potentially building new facilities?
Sure. Once we nail down the square footage requirements, we can use a cost comparison of a renovation cost versus a new construction cost. That's
But
not a problem.
This motion would basically empower you to be able to start making those decisions and taking those steps.
Okay.
I'm asking that question.
Yes, sir. I believe it does.
Okay.
Mr. Guidry, is that correct? Okay.
Any other board member comments or questions? Mr. Broussard.
I don't have a question for Mr. Bordelon, but a question perhaps for the superintendent. Is the ROTC program offered to all of our high school
It's essentially a school of choice. So the answer is yes.
But to offer it, you have to apply, you have to have enrollment. There's typically a waiting list for the different branches, and so potentially that process takes 18 months, 2 years, maybe a little longer, depending on where you're at on the waiting list, depending on the demographics of your school. And a couple of years ago, we made it a school of choice in this parish so that we could accommodate kids from throughout the parish. But to just say we're going to open another ROTC program at, say, Karen Crow, there's a procedure where you have to apply through the Department of Defense and that league and that branch of the military.
So if a student from Lafayette High or from Northside doesn't have one and they had one, if a student from Northside who wanted to join the program, they would have to transfer to Acadiana or Como, or could a number of kids start an ROTC program with the procedure in place?
To say a group of 25 kids start an ROTC program at a school, no, it's much more detailed than that. We'd have to apply to that branch of the military. We have to show them a lot of demographic and district data, and typically those programs are pretty popular nationally, and there's a waiting list for that.
And just to follow up, one of the other issues that we kind of have is the potential dilution of the programs that we have. We have to maintain a minimum of 100 cadets or students in the program. And what happens, there's a finite number of students that are willing to or interested in JROTC programs. And what could potentially happen until the two programs that we have are, say, maybe at over 200 students, if we were to open another one somewhere else, we may potentially dilute and then put the other ones at risk that we have now. What happens when we put them at risk, if they drop below that 100 students, is that we lose half of our funding, and we lose the funding that we get from DOD for that extra instructor, because we kind of split it right now with them. Mr. Santani?
I feel like this, I could use a little more meat on the bones of this idea. So I'm going to ask a question. How much extra time would it be reasonable to give you guys to work with the program directors to come up with something with a little more definite, a little more, I mean, you know, we said 700,000. You mentioned that you had kind of a quick turnaround and somebody just said use 125 a square foot. I'd like to be a little more confident about what we vote on, because I'd like to support these programs. So if we were to give you a little more time on this to come back with something, you know, sharpen your pencil a little bit, how much time do you think you would need to accomplish that? I mean, we're in no hurry, right? We're not building this before the summer anyway. Right?
A couple of 2 or 3 weeks would be nice.
So you talk about September 5th, or you talking about October, whatever the date is? October 3rd?
October 3rd would be great.
Would be great. All right, Mr. President, I'd offer a substitute motion that we direct the superintendent to have his facilities director work with the program directors to come up with a more concrete proposal
Yes, sir.
at the October 3rd meeting.
We have a motion by a substitute motion by Mr. Santani, a second by Mr. Broussard to further investigate this information and bring it back to the October 5th meeting. October 3rd meeting. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Master Sergeant Tina Viltz at Acadiana High School with the Air Force Junior RTC program. And I've been at Acadiana High since 2002, started that program with Mr. Craig, so he knows I've been operating for 16 years in a double-wide Butler building. Everything we do, one side is classroom and the other side is storage with all our uniforms, shelf and hanging, 2 desks for my coworker and I. The kids on Fridays, we're required to do physical training. We substitute for PE credit. And on Fridays, we have the girls on one side of the building and the boys on the other side to change into their uniform. So we're operating with the kids having a conference table in the center of the room so they can hold their meetings and their board meetings. So the one room is multitasked. Como High has the same setup, except for their building is kind of split, separate, but same function. Office space, storage, and then classroom on the other side of the building. And we do everything in that one room. There's no privacy for the kids to conduct their meetings. They own and operate this program. They have regular sessions where they need to work and manage the core, especially the 4 levels. They plan fundraisers and community service events and all this stuff, and they're in our space. So we're all in each other's way. And there's an empty space right next door to my building. For me personally, I have the perfect setup. I have the space. Another Butler building used to be there. They moved it, so the space is still there. We use it for outdoor activity. We have no gym access. There's a girls' gym, there's a boys' gym, so we don't even have the privilege of having a gym, and we substitute PE credit. So everything we do is either in the classroom, we move the desk to the side, and on Fridays, if the weather's inclement and we can't go out, we do everything in that classroom side, from whatever we can think of that's still physical fitness type stuff. The only privilege we have is a big field in the back, and we use a track. We use the tennis court for the drill pad at my school. I don't know what IT use at Como, but for drill and marching, we either use the road in front of the stadium, which by contract, we're not supposed to march in the road, but we have to. And on other days, we take the tennis nets down and we use the tennis court. The square footage meets contract standards, so we can use the tennis court for drilling the students. So basically, we've been operating for a long, long time. I spoke with Mr. Lejeune this school year and had a real sit-down that contractually, I hate to keep using that word, it's not a threat, contractually, we are not we don't have the proper facilities to meet our program. Right now, I'm at 150 cadets. So you're talking, yeah, I'm doing real good. I'm so proud of the kids. And we're growing. And so I know that these facilities will no longer meet my needs. They're not meeting my needs right now. And I can speak for IT as well. We're on the same page. Thank you.
So it's a total students of 150, or it's just Acadiana High, and how
My
many is that?
kids.
Okay,
My
and how
kids.
many do we have at Como?
I'm at 110.
Okay.
Dr. Adelard, board, I think it'd be wise to substitute motion, that Mr. Borlaug can come and sit. Good evening. I'm IT1 Young from Como High School. Sergeant Viltz, Master Sergeant Viltz echoed our sentiments here. I think the substitute motion would be great by allowing Mr. Borlaug to really come to our sites and sit down with us and look at the needs, okay? My assistant principal is here. He and I had a discussion today. I'm in the same situation, even when it comes down to drill. The band members have taken a portion of our parking lot, and they're kind of finagling their way around, and that's what we're doing right now as well. So that's one of the things that I would like to discuss with him, and certainly I shared it with Mr. Como and Ms. Zeno, that we need a drill deck, because physical fitness, academics, and drill is the key ingredients of JROTC. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Angel.
Yeah, I want to make a comment. First of all, I'd like to address my comments to the Master Sergeant. My highest rank was Buck Sergeant, E5, but I made it twice. I want y'all to know. I respect your remarks, sir, because I think it's a good substitute motion. It's good we can get together, but let me assure you that I feel certain that we're going to accommodate y'all relative to space, and whether it's space on the roof or not. I certainly think we'll do all that we can to accommodate both of you.
And before we vote, I just want to add, actually, let's vote, and I'll comment during the vote. So, Madam Secretary, call for the vote. Sometimes it does. So this initiative started. I asked the Master Sergeant at IT1 to of their interest level on a static display, and what that is basically, my thought was, if we could get the Navy and the Air Force to donate, sometimes they donate old aircraft hulls, and then mount them as a display at each facility, that it might help with, one, notifying the public of the fact that we have these programs, encouraging kids to join, and maybe whether it's a torpedo or an airplane or whatever. And the response is probably what I expected was, it's kind of like when I was a lieutenant and I would suggest something to the chief, and it would be like, Lieutenant, what are you thinking about? You're asking for this, but I need that. You're asking for whatever. You're asking me to polish the Jeep, but I need beans, bullets, and Band-Aids. And that was kind of the response. We would really love to have a beautiful airplane static display at both high schools. That would be wonderful. But meanwhile, there's rain coming into my building, and my kids are changing all in the same room. So I just wanted you guys to appreciate the fact that there's a significant need. At the same time, Dr. Aguilar would like to investigate getting a donated static display for the facilities. I do think it would help attract students. That being said, Mr. Ledgely.
So the moral of that story is, the officer asked the enlisted what to do. Enlisted runs the military. E6 right here, SK1.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I had no idea what I was talking about. So.
It doesn't take an act of Congress to make us a gentleman.
That's right. All right. Well, with that, the motion passed. That concluded our business for tonight. Does anyone else have any comments? Before we do conclude, I do want to recognize my fellow board member, two-time president. While we were here on the board, Mr. Angel has qualified to run for the mayor of Carencro, And while this isn't a political endorsement, I can tell you I personally will be voting, if I could vote, in Karen Crowe for Mr. Angel. But, I want to say that I'm very proud of you, very proud of your spirit, and good luck in the election, sir. I'll vote twice. All right. Thank you very much. Concludes our meeting tonight.